Hello everyone, Eric Chappell, Civil Community Evangelist for Autodesk. I want to welcome you all here today for our webcast, What's New in the Geotechnical module for AutoCAD Civil 3D 2018. That may be the winner for the longest title so far this year. Really happy to have with me today Dave Simeone, who you all probably know, Civil 3D Product Manager, and a special guest who's going to be our primary speaker today, Gary Morin. Hopefully I'm saying your last name properly, Gary. Technical Director for Kinetics. And you're going to learn a little bit about the relationship between Autodesk and Kinetics in just a moment. So before we get to our main topic of today's webcast, I just want to talk to you a little bit about our webcast series in case you're new to it, and a little bit about our civil engineering community here at Autodesk. As far as the webcast series, we've been doing this twice a month for a little over 2 years. We try to stick to a first and third Wednesday of the month schedule, but sometimes that gets a little off track based on different events like Autodesk University or holidays, things like that. And the goal of this webcast series is to give you information about product features in our civil products, but we want to give you the perspective of the product team. What are these folks thinking? Why do they release the features that they do? How do they intend them to work for you? And then it also gives you a chance to ask questions about what you hear from them, provide feedback about that, and just ultimately, generally speaking, it's an opportunity to bring the makers of the software closer to you guys, the users of the software. So that's the ultimate goal. Our next webcast will be on Wednesday, June 7th. The working title right now is Realistic Bridge Workflows. We're going to have Ara Ashikian on the phone. If you've ever heard him talk, he gets really excited about the bridge technology that we have here at Autodesk, and he's the mastermind behind most of it. So it's always very interesting and entertaining to hear him talk about what's going on in the bridge world here at Autodesk with InfraWorks. And we had some exciting things happen. I don't know if you saw in the latest release, but you can now build your own custom bridge parts in Inventor and actually bring them in as parametric objects in InfraWorks. So some really exciting advancements going on, and I'm pretty sure Ara is going to address some of that during his presentation. So mark that on your calendar and watch for the links and the information to come out on the different sites that you see listed below, as far as the community forum, social media, and such. If you've got ideas for topics for future webcasts, please go ahead and type them in the questions window. You can do that at any time. You can do it now, or if something pops in your mind later on during the webcast, please go ahead and type it in there. We want to know what you'd like to see, and so we can make sure we try to keep holding topics that bring you guys coming back over and over again. So please share your ideas there. I want to let you know about the Civil Engineering Community Hub site. It's autodesk.com/InfraWorks360 community. This started out as an InfraWorks community, but it's really branched out into more of a civil engineering community. The forums for both Civil 3D and InfraWorks are fed into here. The idea stations for both products. There are tips and tricks regarding the products. The gallery, which is a really great place to see what other folks are doing with Autodesk technology, whether it's InfraWorks, Civil 3D, or whatever the case may be. And not only can you see the projects that folks are working on, but you can ask questions, you can provide comments, you can like things that they post. And the many different ways that you can post to the gallery is really crazy what you can do. You can even post stereo panoramas of your projects so that people can enjoy them with their VR, Google Cardboard or HTC Vive or whatever they happen to have. Videos including all of the past recordings of this webcast series. So far we haven't missed one. So in over 2 years of webcasts, we haven't failed to record any of them. So we've got a nice big library of webcasts looking back over 2 years. So definitely check it out for that. I don't believe we're going to talk about anything preview or futures or beta in this webcast, but in case a question or something takes us down that road, we just want you to know that anything you see regarding preview features or labs features or things that we're working on but haven't released yet, there's never any guarantee that it's going to be in the fully supported version of the software until you actually see it there. So don't make any purchasing decisions based on anything that that is something we're working on and haven't yet released. So with that, I'm done talking for now. I think I'm going to turn it over to Dave Simeone, and he's going to tell you a little bit about our relationship with Kinetics. Dave, you're on.
Great, thanks, Eric. Again, to Eric, echo Eric's thanks for everyone joining us today and for all of the ongoing series. And also, Eric, thanks to you for hosting these and organizing them. I know it's a lot of work, and it's greatly appreciated by us on the product team. I asked if I could just say a couple of words just to preface Gary's presentation today. Just to give you a little background on the relationship with Kinetics. We've been working with Kinetics now for, I think this is our 5th release, Gary. We were talking about that. And, this is, an extension that we really feel fills in a critical gap within our Autodesk Civil 3D product and also solution. And it's been a very, very successful extension. It's been one of the most downloaded tools that we have if we look at all of the different extensions we've released over the years. And it's also been one that I would say has received the most ongoing improvements per year. So each release, we worked closely with the guys from Kinetics to add really important functionality that's been reported or requested from those of you who have been using the product. And the 2018 release is no exception to that. And in fact, I think we've probably accelerated that improvement focus. So I'm really excited for Gary to show you what we've been working on or what they've been working on. Before we talk about that, I think it's important for you guys to understand, why are we working in a partner relationship for delivery of this functionality versus Autodesk building it themselves. It's really kind of 3 primary areas. The first was that this is an area where you absolutely need to have experts who understand the geotechnical industry. And that's Kinetics, right? This is what they've done and what they've always done. They've got an entire team of people who are, who eat, sleep, and drink, geotechnical, subsurface, borehole, etc. And it's difficult for us as Autodesk to be able to replicate that or build that team out. So we felt, it's far more efficient, and we get a much better result if we work closely with a group of experts. Second was there's an attractiveness to us working with development partners in a very, very close way because this allows really Kinetics to effectively work as part of the Autodesk team while we're developing the base platform that they're going to build upon. In other words, what are the APIs that we need? What are the gaps in the API or the functionality that are prohibiting them from being able to implement what they actually are going to deliver in this extension or the enhanced tools that they provide? All right, so it gives us a really, really tight relationship that we can then that I think benefits everybody else who's building upon or on top of Civil 3D. And then the final one is this is an area where there's a need for every user to have access to the geotechnical results, right? The borehole data and the things that you're going to derive from that data, right? The subsurfaces, the drafting, the various things that Gary will talk about. However, it's not necessarily where every Civil 3D user is going to be, the person who's doing that black art of geotechnical modeling. And that's where we need a scalable solution. And we found that working with a partner like this allows us kind of to provide together a complete solution both for the broad audience and then also for those niche.
Dave, I don't know if you can hear us, but we have lost your audio. Gary, can you still hear me?
I can hear you, Eric.
Okay.
So, yes, I've lost Dave.
Yeah, I think we've all lost Dave. Um, Gary, I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and turn the presenter controls over to you, and then maybe we can hear the conclusion of Dave's address later on.
Okay, so make me the presenter.
You are now the presenter.
Okay. There we go. Well, thank you for those words, Dave, those short-lived words before you got cut off. I was going to say I need to employ you as my intro opener for future webinars as well, but not if your internet disappears. Anyway, thanks for this opportunity, Eric and Dave, to present to you. My name's Gary Morin. I'm a director and one of the founders of Kinetics, and really sort of a geotechnical BIM guru, evangelist myself as well, trying to get the message over to people. Just to give you sort of a quick brief view of what I'm going to be talking about. One of my slides have already disappeared. Oh, that's interesting. It's funny how things go wrong. My agenda's suddenly disappeared. The first thing we're going to have a little talk about is about kinetics. Dave has already done this, so as you already know, experts in geotechnical area. This is really the only area we work in, we develop and concentrate in. We've been doing it now for many, many years. And as Dave indicated there, we're really what we call Autodesk AEC partners. They're go-to people to do anything to do with geotechnics. So that's why you've got me on the line talking to you about the geotechnical module and not Autodesk directly. Before we get too far into this, I just have some questions to ask you.
Gary, I've launched the first poll.
Yes, I think I may have made a schoolboy error in my presentation. Having prepared everything, Marik, I have suddenly opened up the wrong presentation.
Well, in the meantime, folks attending are responding to the first poll, which is what is your job role? And I can talk about some of the results as you're finding the right presentation there.
Yeah, I have. Thank you. Sorry about that. Go on.
No problem. So the question is, what is your job role? Choices are geotechnical engineer, geologist, CAD technician, CAD manager, BIM manager, or other. And I don't believe that you folks on the other side can see the results, so I'll kind of share them with you as they come in. Right now it's 18% geotechnical engineer, 25% CAD technician, 19% CAD manager, 15% BIM manager, and 22% other. So we've got a really even distribution of different job roles on today's call. So that's really great. Gary, would you like me to launch the next poll?
Yes, I'm ready to go now. I've got the right PowerPoint in front of me.
Okay.
It's funny, isn't it? You prepare, ready for go, and then I come to do it and I open up the wrong presentation. Wonderful. But yeah, so just quickly to go through the agenda before we go too much further. We'll skip the little bit about kinetics. I'm going to give you a quick 5-minute overview for those of you who may not be familiar with the current geotechnical module and what it does. Then the bulk of my talk will be looking at all the new features that we've added for the 2018 release. And then really just to finish off, we're going to circle and really look at where you go if you want to go beyond the geotechnical module functionality, you want to do additional features, do additional work. So we'll circle back and look at that information. And finally, answer any questions and answers you got. And as Eric has already said, please make use of the question box to ask any questions. We've got Dave, Eric, and we've also got one of my colleagues in the background, Roger Chandler. So if there's any particular questions you need to ask, fire away, and we'll do our best to answer those as we go through. We'll miss the bit about kinetics, and we'll go on to the poll questions. We've just done the first one with Eric. And we really want to go on to the second question now, poll question, which is what type of subsurface boring data do you guys currently work and draw with? So if the answers down there is basically no, we don't draw any boring drawings at all. Now this is multiple tops, so you can click as many checkboxes as you want. So, tick away whichever boxes are appropriate for you. So do you actually go ahead and try to model 3D geology? Do you draw cross-sections, profile views? So the numbers are still going up, so we'll give you a little bit more time to vote.
Hey, Gary and Eric, can you hear me? I'm just doing a quick audio check.
We can indeed, Dave.
Yes, we can.
Okay. I think that was the background of, I talk too long, so let's just shut off Dave's mic. Cut the mic.
Is that a built-in feature in your mic?
It seems to happen a lot to me. I don't understand. I'll be quiet.
So actually, Dave, while we're waiting for these poll results to come in, do you want to just finish off your where you were?
Yeah, the only last thing, and I could hit this later, but just so people know, as Gary's going through the 18 update, we have the final version of this update, and it's now moving through the publishing side. So in other words, it's fully implemented. It's been tested up on our futures program. It's really now just a matter of it going live on the Autodesk desktop app and up on accounts.autodesk.com or manage.autodesk.com. So it should be, with any goal, you'll see by the end of the week everything that Gary demonstrates on 2018 you should have access to. That was kind of the last thing I would think I wanted to hit, so I'll be quiet.
Cheers, Dave. Thank you. Well, we'll get on here, and as you were talking, the final results came in from the poll questions, and just to quickly share those with you, around 20% of those don't actually draw any geotechnical data at the moment. Over 50% actually draw borehole boring or borehole site plans. Nearly 60% of you draw geotechnical cross-sections or profile views. 25% of you actually attempt to do 3D geotechnical models, geology models, so that's good. But I think the interesting thing, worrying thing, Dave, I don't know, only 12% of you are actually currently using the geotechnical module. So hopefully for the other quick maths, 88% of you on the call, what you're going to see today, and especially in the first 5 minutes, the 5-minute overview, should hopefully be of great interest to you and show you how perhaps you can improve your workflows and efficiencies in using AutoCAD Civil. So let's move on then with the presentation. So I'm going to give you a quick 5-minute overview or recap of what the geotechnical module actually does, and then we're going to come back and look at the new features in a lot more detail. So primarily, the geotechnical module is available to all AutoCAD Civil 3D subscription holders. You can go to either to the your Manage Autodesk account to do it, or I believe it is also available now through the application update options commands within AutoCAD's within the AutoCAD install as well, AutoCAD Civil install. And it's primarily designed to allow you to create and visualize geotechnical subsurface data inside AutoCAD Civil 3D. It's as simple as that. The main elements of it, which I'll quickly show you in a moment, is the ability to create geotechnical projects on your local machine, import the geotechnical data, and then by using the location manager or the strata manager, be able to visualize individual borings or boreholes. You will hear me jump from borings to boreholes. In the UK, we call them boreholes. In the US, you primarily call them boring, so I do jump from one to the other on it. So you'll be able to generate 3D borings. You'll also be able to generate, using the strata manager, 3D AutoCAD Civil 3D surfaces representing the geology materials. We then can go on and generate what we call geotechnical profile views, so profile views but overlaid with our geology, overlaid with log strips showing you the geotechnics, and on top of that we then have a style and hatching manager as well. So what I'm going to do is a very quick demo of the type of functionality. So this is the geotechnical module. We're going to connect through to the local database, and we open it and it will present me with a list of projects I have on my machine. So in this particular case, I could go and pick an existing project to import, bringing the data directly, but I'm going to create a new one here. We're just going to go through and give it some criteria. I don't need to fill all of these fields in. I'll just do the compulsory fields just for now. The other fields can just be used to search. And basically what it's doing, it's creating a placeholder, a bit like creating an AutoCAD Civil 3D surface. When you first create a surface, you then have to add data to it. So we've now created a project, we've connected to that project. We're now going to import data to it, and we can do that through either CSV format, or in the UK we use a format called the AGS. And we've got 3 simple CSV files which we're going to go through and validate. In this particular webinar, I'm not going to go through the details of these CSVs. There are other videos, other tutorials we can show you with that. But through this wizard, we can pick which boreholes we want to bring in, how many we're going to bring. It validates the data, and at the end of it, we have our 3D boreholes representing our geology here. Now we can use this location manager to actually, and each record here represents a different borehole location. We can sort and group this information. In this particular case, I'm altering the vertical scale, so let's just put it back to 5 times vertical scale so we can see the boreholes a little more clearly. We can choose how we want to classify the material. Do we want to do it on geology codes or legend codes? We can decide which elements we want to display, the plan symbols, the 3D model symbols. We even can tell it to exclude certain borehole locations, pretend they don't exist in this particular project. If I flip over to plan view and pick a few boreholes, I can even tell it to show log strips on plan. So you can see just literally in a few seconds now, we have a log strip representing the geology down our hole. Using the style manager, I can flip and tell it to use a different style of log strip. So instead of using our geology, in this case, we're actually showing soil unified soil classifications, patterns and values coming through. So it's designed to be a quick interface where you can easily pull in the data and view it. I've now just gone into sort of one of the really interesting areas of the geotechnical module, the strata manager. We've got a drawing here with no surfaces in, but in those few seconds, we've just created 12 AutoCAD civil surfaces based on the geology, top and base surfaces for each geology material, and there we have it in. Now, I must emphasize, this is just the starting point of modeling your geology. Yeah, I've got some pretty nice clean data here. In reality, it doesn't come in that clean. You need to check, model, validate your information, verify it, and use AutoCAD civil commands to help model it. But in this particular example, even before I start doing any tidying at all, I can go into the Geotechnical Profile View command, pick the type of profile view I want to create. In this case, I'm drawing a new alignment to use. Through my site here, I can set which type of geology I want to show, the type of log strips I want to show, and in this particular case I'm just going to come over now and hit finish, and we have very quickly drawn our new cross section. Okay, so we're just going to click on this, drag it to a new location. We've got the new power, we've got the power, the dynamic power of civil here. So as we move our cross section around, our alignment around, the profile view is automatically updated. The borehole log strips are all updated to reflect that. It actually changes the way in which you go about doing this. Traditionally, drawing cross sections or profile views like this would have taken hours and hours to do. We're doing this now in seconds. So it changes this from a presentation tool to a thinking tool. It allows you to go in there and interrogate the data and understand that data better. So let's move on now and have a little look at some of the new features. In fact, before we do that, there's just another quick poll question I want to fire away. So Eric, if you can launch the next poll question, please. And this is for the guys. Obviously, a lot of you are producing drawings with geotechnical features in. What we really want to know is, how do you receive that data? Do you just get a boring log in PDF and you've got to look at the data, type it all in by hand? Do you get the data in Excel? Are you working with GINT so you can export the data from GINT? You don't get any data, or you have other means? If you have other means of getting it, please just type it in the chat box or in the question box to tell us how you receive your data, so we got a better idea there as well. So we're just watching the numbers go up here. PDF is about 42%. My colleague in the background, Roger, is going to be crying at the moment. We have two rules for data entry at Kinetics. You only enter the data once and you get someone else to do it. Use data management and use the data directly. You don't need to retype it in. Unfortunately, at the moment, 45% of you are having to retype data in by using PDF files.
I'm sobbing, Gary. I'm absolutely sobbing here. So much work to do.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, let's give everybody the quick results for this poll question here. So we have, 45% of you have to retype data in from PDF files. 25% of you use Excel. 10% get data from GINT. 9% don't receive any data, and 10% use other. So thank you very much for that. There's a lot of efficiencies and workflow gains to be made here, so keep on listening as we go through this presentation. So let's get on to the main heart of this presentation, what's new in 2018. So these are the main features we're going to cover. So the enhanced layer management system, improvements to the geotechnical profile view, the new edit geotechnical profile view command, updates and changes to the hatch manager, property sets. I think the biggie for the 2018 release, the new features, fence diagrams, and the ability to export the geotechnical objects. So I'm going to get cracking on here straight away with this to keep time going. Obviously, with more BIM compliance, BIM standards, CAD managers with layering standards, the ability to control your layer definitions is very important. In the previous versions of the Geotechnical Manager, this wasn't that sophisticated. So we've added a whole new set of commands to give you complete control over where geotechnical data, what layers it gets created on. So let me just quickly move ahead and just run this demo. So you'll see we have this new layer command. So if I click it, what we actually do here is define the layer naming convention. And we have it by these various different lookup boxes and text boxes. In the bottom section below there you saw examples. So here, for instance, I'm going to start off really simplistic. Let's have a prefix for all my geotechnical layers. And in fact, I'm going to tell it don't bother doing anything else. So we're going to put all of our geotechnical data on a really sophisticated layering system called G underscore. Okay, so that's what my that's what my CAD manager insists, that all geotechnical data has to go onto a layer called G underscore. Wonderful. There we have it stored that way. Perhaps we can do a little bit more sophistication on that. So we're going to perhaps just quickly change the prefix, and we're going to use one of these pull downs and say to, oh, actually, perhaps I want to base my layering structure on the type of material it is. Don't want to do anything else, just nice and simple. Let's just base it on the material. So let me just quickly delete those and update the drawing again. So now these new objects are created on the new layers, and you can see GE underscore and the layer, the material being generated there. So I think you're starting to get a feel of how this new layer command works. So we're defining the structure of the layer names. So let's come down here and use objects. So this is whether it's a civil 3D object, a log strip, a surface, but then we're going to subdivide it based on, in this case, let's say the stratum type. So in this case, we now do a new extension prefix called geo. We can perhaps even add a suffix on it, let's say draft in this particular case, and we'll just quickly update our data again so we can see what we've got. Perhaps add a few extra geotechnical objects to the data, and now you can see we've got these divided new geology layers. So you see each time I'm doing this, I'm putting an extra level of granularity in my layer definitions. So here we're going back to the default where we also have element, which is saying whether it's text, hatch, blocks, etc. And we're also going to tell it to split layers. If you're in the geotechnical module, you can actually have sophisticated layers where you've got multiple overlay of layers. So for instance, you may have a solid color background with hatching over the top of it. So by using that option, we split it onto different layers. So now when we go and look at the allow, you notice it's all broken down into separate layers. Now the beauty of doing this is normally all the configuration settings are saved back into the Geotechnical database. But here you can override those values in your local drawing, changing the colors, changing the transparency of a particular layer, etc. So it gives you complete control. Now you may not like some of the naming conventions we've used. You may not want to call your 3D boreholes 3D wells. So in this case you can just use the terminology editor here, change the terminology for your layer names, and from now you can see there now we're using 3D holes for as opposed to 3D wells in there. So we're hoping that with this new layering command it will give you complete control over how you want to structure your geotechnical layers. So moving on, the other area of improvements, primarily based on a lot of feedback from clients, is the create geotechnical profile view. So there's been a few little changes we've made to this, and I think I'll just go straight into the video to show you it working. So you can see we're on the same data set, zoomed a little bit closer, and I've also added some background data. So here I'm just going to quickly change the profile view style. Now we can select the particular band set we want to use, okay, as we draw it. I'm going to, in this case, just create a new alignment to show this working. And the other option we see down here, now we're trying to make this as simple for all users, whether you're an expert civil user or just an occasional user. So now you can see we can go and pick other types of surfaces and include those into the geotechnical profile view. Here I'm just selecting a new log strip styles. We've also done some subtle but quite significant changes in the way in which you select your boreholes to be used. So for instance, when you flip over from by buffer to manual, it remembers the selection. So now I can go and add extra boreholes. In this case, let's go down and add borehole 31 to our layer. So we've got 5 boreholes there now. I could select a particular borehole and say to it, actually, I don't want borehole 1 in this particular profile view. Let's remove it. So we've got a little bit better control over which boreholes you do and don't show in your profile views. And we'll quickly come in here and create our profile view with our boreholes being shown. So there's been some subtle but quite significant improvements there to the actual profile view command. Now what goes with the profile view is the ability to edit those geotechnical profile views. In the past, once you've created one, you could not change the log strip style. You could not add or remove boreholes to an existing geotechnical profile view. So we've added some of that functionality plus more into this new edit geotechnical profile view command. So in here, you'll see as we just go along, before I do anything here, I'm just going to go away and update the drawing. Let's bring in some new surfaces that this drawing has not seen before. So I've just pulled in some extra geotechnical surfaces. I'm going to go to this new edit profile view command here, select the profile view I want to edit, and in comes, it looks identical to the create new, just some subtle differences. So here we're going to change the profile view style, perhaps pick a different banding if we wanted to. It's designed to be really intuitive to use. So here you've got those extra geotechnical profiles. So let's pick them. We can tell them whether we want to hatch those or not. So it's designed to be a very simple to use interface. Coming through to this second page, look, we can now just quickly change the style. So instead of using legend style strips, we're going to switch over to geology style strips. And we could now go ahead, I'm not doing it now, but we could go ahead and select different borings to show. And there we have a different profile view at a different vertical exaggeration using the new geology borehole log strips without any of the geology hatched at the top. So you can see this new edit one gives you lots of capability, though it's easy to use to change any geotechnical profile view. Other changes we've had, little updates to the hatch manager. I think we'll just run straight in here to show you these. I'm conscious of time, so let's just go to the next page, and the best thing to do is to show it working. So one change that came out halfway through last year, actually, so some of you may be familiar with this, is the ability to automatically scale up all hatch patterns. So here I've got a log strip with a hatch pattern on, and what I want to do is, if we look at individual hatch patterns, they're all individually scaled. So if we've got a drawing and we want the whole lot to be scaled up, all I need to do now is use this hatch scaling factor. Come into my styles and just reset it again, and now you should see how all of my log styles strips, my hatch styles, all look neat and clean on my drawing. So there's one of the ones, and the other thing just to quickly add is primarily for US use, we've added now all the unified soil classification system hatch styles onto the system. You will need just to configure them out of the box, but they are in there ready for you to use straight away. The other improvement we made is the ability to associate materials to your geology as well. So you see we have this new pull down here where I can pick a particular AutoCAD render material. Now a little caveat here, those materials must be present in your drawing, okay, and also in your template drawing. So when you go to use this at a future date in a new drawing, you've got to make sure those materials are available. But what we're basically doing is applying that by layer to any of the geotechnical objects that you create, so you can control the materials for render purposes using the actual hatch manager now as well. So if we bring in some of these strata again, we recreate it, and we come here and we show it in realistic mode, can you see these top two surfaces we've created are actually being rendered using the render material? Not a particularly impressive render material, but it is using that. So when we go back to shaded, I've told my shaded views not to use rendered materials, so you can see what the true colors are. Okay, so that is primarily more useful when you're exporting out to other software, that we actually now have materials both on the 3D objects, the surfaces, on fence diagrams added to those surfaces where applicable. Another small one is we've also started trying to exploit the property set functionality added in 2017, so that if you click on a 3D borehole or a surface, you will see there is some extended data and some basic property information regarding our borehole locations or the geology. And we've done that really thinking ahead for when you're trying to use this and export this out and use it in other Autodesk products in there as well. Now, really the big area of development for the 2018 release is the use of fence diagrams. Now, first of all, I'm sure a lot of you are going to say, what is a fence diagram? For us, it's basically a section or a profile view, but in 3D. So you can see from the image there, it's really a way of representing your data, making it clear and easy to share with clients, with your colleagues, with the rest of the construction team. We found, and a lot of feedback from customers around the world, is sharing geotechnical surfaces. There's risk involved in doing that. An engineer may not have studied the whole site in great detail. So what really happening on a surface a long way away from any borings? Who really knows? What happens is they will look at a cross-section, at a profile view. They will look at that, interpret that data, and they will have more confidence with what's going on in that cross-section, in that profile view. So therefore, it's safer for them to share that data. Also, and hopefully you'll see this as we go through this process, how quick and easy it is to do it. And actually, when you integrate it and pull it into InfraWorks, how good it is. It looks really good as well, and it's very, very useful. So I'm just going to quickly jump into this functionality and show it working for you. So I'm going to click on this create fence diagram command. It's a really simple command. You can see there's very little in it. You either select an alignment or profile view. You select the thickness of the fence diagram it's going to create and hit select create. So let's just go through this whole process then. So this is the surfaces, this is the geology you've seen me working on already today. I'm going to go over now to create fence diagram. I'm going to go and select, I'm just going to select in this case from my two profile views I've got on the right hand side here. So I'll just select the two of them. I'm going to come in here now. I could leave thickness as 0, and in that case it will create AutoCAD lofted surfaces. But by setting a number in there, we're now creating 3D objects. So you can see we've got them sort of like bookends on either end of our geology here. Let me just quickly go through, and I'm going to go to the Strata Manager and just turn off my Civil 3D surfaces we've got here so we can see it a little bit more clearly. And you can see what we very quickly created there is these two, in this case, not particularly impressive fence diagrams. Let's just go back to our top view again, and we're just going to go through that process again. In fact, we're going to do it from scratch in this particular case, because you can see I have some alignments on my drawing already. So I'm going to come in here and select the alignment for this road down here. Okay, just going to give it the profile view style to use, tell it not to use any bands. Not too worried about borings are being shown in it, but there we have our profile view. Now normally I would study that, check that I'm happy with the way it looks. Then I'll go into this create fence diagram. I'm picking the alignment we've just created plus another one I already had done and hit create on that. So now if we go and look at our 3D drawing, again, in the model in 3D, you should see this ribbon effect of our geology and how it changes across the site. Here can you see like the green bands showing our geology changing in thickness as it follows our alignments and around there. It's a great tool for sharing geology with other people. I'm just going to take this down to one-time exaggeration. We've got 5 at the moment, so you can see that's what our site really is like. To update my fence, all I need to do is click on rebuild, and it will just move it all down so it's all now at 1-to-1 vertical exaggeration. Now we're using profile views here. The problem is when we do this and we do this all automated, we get problems. You can see here we've got a hole, a void in our data. It's primarily due to a test pit in the background that is very short. If we're happy with the geology, we're at the end of modeling, pulling data in, what we can do is just flip my cross-section, our profile, into static. So you're removing the link between it and the model. But now we can edit our profiles. So in this case, I'm coming to the bottom of this particular clay layer, and all I'm doing here is just removing those vertices, updating it. So you should see the cross-section, the update very shortly. I'm going to go back now to my fence manager and tell it to update the fence diagram for us. And you should see the cross-section, our fence diagram, update to reflect the changes we've just made in our profile view. So it also becomes a much more rapid way of producing these visually stunning effects, showing us what the geology data is across our site. So that is the new fence diagram command that we've introduced for 2018. So to allow you to make better use of that data, to go with that, we've also created a very simple geotechnical export command, okay, to get this data and put it out into a simple drawing that you could use in other systems. And within the export, we actually also export property sets and materials in it. It's a really simple to use command, so let's just quickly go and show you this. So in the drawing we just created a moment ago, let's click on export. You can see we can export plan symbols, our 3D boreholes and our fence diagrams at the moment. We just give it a name of a new file, so Charlotte export, and hit save. So it automatically opens the export drawing. So we've just got now a drawing made up from simple AutoCAD 3D objects. So we'll just again put that into shaded mode so we can see our ribbon there. So it's just simple objects that we've created. If I look at the properties, let's say on one of these pieces of the fence diagram, we will see that it knows it's a piece of clay that we've pulled out there. So we've done that, so it's ready now for you to use that in any particular other Autodesk software. So in this particular case, I'm going to have a go at bringing it into InfoWorks. Now, I'm not an expert on InfoWorks, but even I found this pretty straightforward and easy to do. So I'm in InfoWorks now, 2018. We've got the North Carolina Charlotte data set here in front of us. So I'm just going to go over now to data source and connect through, and I'm going to tell it here, this is the important thing, I'm going to tell it to bring in an AutoCAD drawing with 3D objects. Okay, I'm going to pick on my export I've just created and hit open to that and send it up. This takes a minute or so, so I've just speeded it up a little bit. I now need to configure this. Now I'll click on here. Now I'm sure Eric will answer this for me, but at the moment I'm going to go in here and tell it to use the the local coordinate system, UTM coordinate system. I'm having to say here use city furniture. Need to sit and work with Autodesk. I think we need to get some geology objects in there for the future for us to use as a type on it. But for now we'll use furniture objects in there, and we can see in the top left our geology ribbon, our geology fences appearing. And just think what a great way to try to share with the rest of your construction team, with your clients, what the geology is underneath the site, where you're going to have problems because of the geology. Yeah, and just think how quick and easy it was to do it. So these are the features that we've added into 2018, really to allow you to exploit and make better use of the geotechnical data. So just moving on, there is one other change in 2018, and just very quickly, we've updated the user guide. That's one good thing, I guess, but we've actually moved it over to the Kinetics Assist website. It's a little bit like the Autodesk one. It's completely interactive. We have videos, how-tos, troubleshooting information on it. So we go down now to the new layer manager command. It will give us help and hint on there. So there's a whole host of information on here. In fact, we use it for all of our other geotechnical products. And if I was just to come in here and let's say just search for something, let's see, tell me anything you've got about modeling geology. Let's just do a quick search here. In comes webinars and videos and articles of lots of different information all being available here for us to go in. This data, I must admit, is secured for our Kinetics customers, but there is a lot of data available. Some of the data will be available for any geotechnical module users as well in there. And the last little bit just to show you is if you go to the companion products, and we'll talk about this in a moment, there are some additional products that we do that will actually enhance your geotechnical module and enhance Civil, AutoCAD Civil yet further. So there we are. They're the main features in 2018 we've just quickly covered. One very quick thing just to mention, on that Kinetics Assist site, there is a lot of extra data in there that you may not find useful. For anybody watching this video, if you want to sign up using the address we got there, kinetics.com/geomod, just type your details. We'll give you full access to the Kinetics Assist website up to June the 14th, and then you can get any of that data, any tutorials, any information, whether it's secured for Kinetics users only or not, you'll have full access to it. So if you want to get access, just use that log there, and that will give you that access to it. Right, we're near the end. There's just a few minutes. I just want to cover one or two other things. So I really want, if Eric is still around, he hasn't fell asleep, if you can show the next poll question. I just want to quick find out how are you sharing your data at the moment? Do you primarily just work with data on your local machine? You're happy with that? Would you prefer to be able to share it and work on current projects on over machines, or do you think it's essential to you do it, or some other criteria? So I'm just going to give you a few seconds just to do that. So how many are you happy just working local? How many need to share? How many feel it's essential to share that way? Okay, we'll just give you a few more seconds just to fill in. Okay, I think we're just about there. So around 15% or so of you that have voted so far, 15-16% have said you're happy to work local. Then we basically have an even split, 40% and 40%, or 40 say you think it would be useful to work and share data with your team members. 40% of you said that you think it's absolutely essential, and 3% have another reply there. So again, thank you very much. And it's no coincidence I asked this particular question as we move on to the next part of our talk. Just to finish off really here now is beyond the geotechnical module. I think the geotechnical module is brilliant. I think it's really, really useful. Now, I would say that because we're the developers of it, but it does have limitations. Yeah, just ask yourself, and it leads on from the poll question we just done there, what are your typical requirements you may need? Yeah, do you need to access projects not just from one machine but from multiple drawings? So you've got multiple people who want to update that geotechnical data, work with that geotechnical data on other machines. The geotechnical module, you can only work with the geotechnical data on one machine. You can share the drawing, give the drawing to other people, but they will only see that data as normal CAD data or normal civil data and not as geotechnical data, so you won't have any control over it. So do you need to have control over that geotechnical data in the drawing on other machines? What happens when that data changes? You've got new update, new information, you spot problems in the data, someone's put the wrong elevation in, someone's classified the geology with the wrong classification, or there's additional, someone sent you the data at the end of day one of drilling, and they carried on drilling the whole of the second day, and there's some extra data at the bottom of it. How do you go about updating, changing that data, pulling it through on there? Another requirement you may have is the log strips are okay, but we work with a lot more than just geology data in our organization. We need to show where groundwater is on our log strips inside civil. We want to show things like SPT N values, blow counts in our logs. How does it change as you go down depth in your boring log? Perhaps you want to work with contamination data. You want to show contamination levels down there. So there may be different types of information you want to show in those log strips that you do. Or another possibility is, well, yeah, it's great, but we want to be able to view and visualize other types of data in 3D. For instance, let's see where the groundwater, the water table is across the site. Where level is it? Can we actually work out where we've got high levels of moisture content and show that in 3D across the site? So there may be all different types of visualization you want. You may actually be working with something like GINT and you want to reduce your, remove the reliance on using GINT. You want to make full and exploit full AutoCAD functionality. How can you do that? Because GINT is quite limited on what it works and how it can integrate in AutoCAD. So you may want to have better techniques of doing that. If any of those are things that you need to do, you want to improve, then you may want to look at some of the companion products that Kinetics do. Now, we're all about geotechnical data management. By having data, by putting data in one place, only typing data in once and having it central, you can use that data time and time again. So we have developed software, our range of software is called Whole-Base SI, that basically manages that geotechnical data in one place. And with that data managed in one place, you can access it from multiple machines in different software and make use of it. So one of those usages is accessing it and putting it through into AutoCAD Civil. You update the data inside Whole-Base, you can then update the data in Civil at a single click. It's incredibly fast, it's very easy to use. But if you've got that data there, you can use it for all manner of different things. So for instance, if you're working with managing geotechnical data, if you've got a whole archive of it, let's store it and make use of it. So perhaps you've been asked to tender for a new job, or you're doing a desk study, feasibility study of a new job. If you've got borings in that area, if you've already got data in that area, you can go in there and use that data. So when you're planning where to put new boreholes, how to go about doing the job, you're building upon existing knowledge, not starting from scratch. So that's how you can use data. You can obviously use the data, and our software, you want to generate a boring log, a proper boring log, click the button, and up pops a boring log. What geotechnical engineers, geologists all use. It does all that as well. But if you've got the data, imagine you've got lab tests to do. You want to find out what the moisture content levels are, plasticity limits, etc., are of your materials that you're finding down the ground. Within Holebase, you can schedule those lab tests, send it out to the lab. We actually do lab management software as well, and pull those results back into your central data. Now, if you've got all those results in your data, in your central database, and we're connecting through to it from AutoCAD Civil or from Excel, we can show that data as well. So all the lab results, how the stiffness of the ground, Californian bearing ratios, water content, we can actually exploit that data and show it and visualize it inside AutoCAD Civil or inside Excel. And that's really what our range of products are all based to do. It's basically working on geotechnical data and allowing you to look at it, visualize it, and use it to better understand what's going on in your site and do better engineering. So these are just an array of different outputs we have inside of the Civil extension, inside Holebase. So for instance, Holebase itself has an inbuilt GIS system. So I mentioned to you before about planning where your SI is going to go, where are you going to drill your holes, where they're going to go, where best to place them. So we use this, you can bring in GIS background mapping, you can do that all within Holebase. I mentioned before, once you've got your data there, click a button and it will generate a boring log for you in seconds, incredibly rapid and very, very flexible and easy to use. Hopefully you've seen how easy the geotechnical soft module is. That's really how all our software is designed to be easy to use that way. If you've got the data, let's exploit common tools. We've already talked about exploiting AutoCAD Civil. Let's exploit Excel, Microsoft Excel as well. We can just go into Excel, it links into Holebase, and in seconds it can create you hundreds, dozens, not hundreds of different usable charts that you need to use as a geotechnical engineer. So it's all based around using this centralized data. And in the same way, we could link in the geotechnical module into the central database to use the geotechnical module functionality, or you could link in its big brother, which is the Holebase SI extension for AutoCAD Civil 3D, that does all what the geotechnical module does, but has access to all of the other data that you may want to manage inside for geotechnics. So here, for instance, in fact, this is more environmental data. We're showing a heat map representing the levels of contamination across the site. It could be showing us the water table. It could be showing us soft ground across the site. But the ability there is by having very fast, simple workflows that you can repeat time and time, it can go look at the data and pull that information in for you very rapidly. On the right hand of the screen, we're just showing you here completely customizable different log strips showing different types of data that you may want to show. So for instance, groundwater strikes, monitoring installation in material, well information, sample locations. On the right down here, we're showing core recovery values. So the point about this is these are all automatically created. You have the data in your database, you configure the system, you then draw a cross section, and it automatically draws this information for you. So just going back to those original points we had beforehand, if you have any of those requirements, then you may want to come and talk and go beyond the geotechnical module and talk to us about some of the other products that we do as we specialize in this geotechnical area. So with that done, I'll hand back over to Eric and thank everybody for their time and patience in staying with us. I do hope you found that hopeful, and if we have any time, I shall do my best to answer any questions that are out there. So thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Gary. I think Roger's going to give it a shot to ask a couple of the questions that popped up during the webcast. So, Roger?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Eric. Gary, been absolutely frantic here, actually. It's been quite exciting. I've got a few I haven't been able to answer fully. First one, is it possible to put custom patterns in the profiles and in the 3D fence diagrams?
Not in the 3D fence diagrams, primarily because you, and Dave may well better correct me here, you cannot hatch curved surfaces because they are actually lofted or 3D surfaces. You can't do it. The way you would do it is by using render material. So if you have a material that has a pattern in it, then you can apply that material through the hatch manager as we shown beforehand. So not a hatch pattern, but a material, yes, you can.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. Next one I've got here, I've got quite a few. Does the export convert to a format that will work with normal CAD, i.e. without the AutoCAD Civil side?
Yes, it does. So primarily it is creating standard AutoCAD 3D objects. I think the only bit you won't see is, and again Dave will correct me if I'm wrong, is the property set, which I believe is AutoCAD Civil only, or Autodesk Architecture only, I believe. But all the other objects that we have in there are all standard AutoCAD objects that are being created, so you can use them anywhere you want.
Yeah, this is Dave. The only thing I'd add to that is so Navisworks will read the property set data. Also, BIM 360, the viewer that is on that will include both the civil properties as well as the property set data. However, if you're going into things like Revit or InfraWorks, anything else that's going to read just the solids or view the solids, you'll see visually you'll see things, but you just won't have access to that incremental data.
Very good, thanks. Ready for the next one, Gary? When you change the layer names the objects are going to be drawn on, do you need to erase the data and redraw it, or do the objects magically change their layers?
You do need to delete them and redraw it. What I normally do is when we first set up a project or a session, the first thing I do is save the layering convention I want, then go into a new drawing. Because the way the geotechnical module, all configuration is saved centrally in the data or in its local database, when you create a new drawing it remembers it all and it will use all that layering from then on. So it's normally the first thing I do when I start setting up the system is decide what layering system you want to do, save it, and then it will use that from then on.
Very good. A late one just come in here. Strips on the profile views. Are the hatching scales automatically based upon the profile view scale?
No is the answer. May go back and look at that as a wish list item. Actually, that could well be something that we look at doing in the future on it. At the moment, they are based on just the scale that you have set up in the hatch manager itself, and it's also part of the reason why we added this scale factor, because if you're working in metric, imperial, depending on what units you're working in, the area you're covering, you may want to alter the size of your hatching on your log strip. So at the moment we do it through that method, but I think that's a good item and ought to go in our wish list item for the future.
Okay, very good. I've got one more, which is more of a discussion point, really. So it's a great question. What is the best practice on where to create your geotechnical module? Should you include it on its own drawing and then reference it into the 3D CAD with the rest for quantity purposes, or should you create it within the drawing that has all the other information in it?
Okay, so first of all, the geotechnical module, when you're creating surfaces, when you're looking at alignments, etc., will work with data shortcuts. So when you're generating a geotechnical profile view, you can click on a shortcut. When you're referencing using a civil 3D surface as an existing ground surface, they can all come through data shortcuts. So obviously in your current drawing, you need to have the data there that you're generating for the geotechnical module. But if you then want to reference that into another drawing for later use, I would probably use it like you would any other AutoCAD Civil 3D functionality. Let the geotechs look after and manage the geotechnical elements in their drawing, then reference that in any other drawing you want to, as opposed to having it all in one huge drawing, because we all know when that happens, things start going slower.
Very good. I think that's it from me. I've had lots and lots of questions which are covered in articles on our knowledge base. So what I will just do is in the chat window I will paste that link that Gary had in his presentation if people want to click on it. I see we've got lots of people already registering for the free access, so we will try and get around to everybody tomorrow or Monday to get everyone there. But if you want to send that link, and then we can discuss and point you in the right direction. So I've just put that into the chat window for you.
Thanks, Roger, for that. So I'll hand that now to Eric, who will close it. But going on from there, if anybody has got any questions, any information, you know, my email address was up at the beginning of this. We'll send it through. But if you know how to contact Eric or Dave, I'm sure they'll pass things through to us. But kinetics.com, go up there. If any questions you want, just fire through, and we'll do our best to answer any questions you have on this in the future. So thank you very much for your time, and back to Eric now.
Thanks, Gary. And just to follow up on the questions, we do have a log of all the questions that were asked during the webcast, so perhaps you guys or Dave or a combination of the two can do a follow-up and maybe email some responses back on those questions. But I want to thank you, Gary, for putting on such a great presentation, Roger for handling all the questions, and I can attest to Roger's claim that it was crazy back here. There were tons and tons of questions, which is really exciting. There's definitely a huge amount of interest among the audience who attended today. So thanks for a great presentation. I want to remind everyone that our next webcast will be on Wednesday, June 7th, and the topic will be bridge workflows in InfraWorks 360. So don't miss Ara and his discussion of bridge stuff in InfraWorks. And just want to wish everyone a great day. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks again, Gary and Roger and Kinetics and Dave Simeone from Autodesk for a great presentation. And we'll see you all next time. Thanks.